following is a paid program. The content is provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership are not responsible for the content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. And now, the host of the Team Martek Hour, Joe Martek.
I'm glad you turned that up because you know I'm getting hard of hearing.
I wanted to make sure you heard it.
just the last two words.
Well, that was the backup
then
system.
Then she flashes. Yeah, that's the backup. I am Joe Martek, and this is the Team Martek Hour. And sitting with me is original team member Dan Woron, independent insurance agent. Who is not here is Greg Fasula, attorney, which is part of the original three. He's probably pretending he's working. He might be in Montana about now. This is his time of year to go west. You know, he loves to go out west to Montana.
It's cool out there this time.
Well, years ago, I love Montana, and I love Whitefish, Montana, one of the prettiest little towns going. And years ago, Greg and I talked about opening up an office out there. He was ready in a heartbeat. Then I thought, this is called a work program.
There's not a lot of places to get business from way out there. I mean, we went to a place called Paws Up Ranch, and it was a great thing. I mean, it was like my wife calls it glamping, glamorous camping. But there wasn't a lot out there.
Well, see what happens.
Well, you have to go this time of the year, too, don't you? Before it gets really cold.
No. See, the Flathead Valley is loaded with one of the biggest lakes, freshwater lakes, any place next to Lake Tahoe. And it's loaded with heavy-duty California money. All of these, multi-million-dollar houses all around it.
Aren't there places in Montana where you can still be a squatter?
Oh, of course.
I think so.
All of Montana, the population is less than half of Palm Beach County.
There's a reason there's nobody there.
There is a reason.
There are the, let's call them, survivalists that are out there off the grid.
Yeah,
and you literally.
I wouldn't want to live like that. I mean, I'm not saying I couldn't, but I don't think I would. I've been a little acclimated. It's like I grew up without air conditioning, but I don't think I'd want to go back to having no air conditioning.
A little spoiled.
Well, you're in Montana. You could probably do without air conditioning.
But I need to.
But you'd need heat.
Yeah. Well, okay, you have a wood-burning stove.
That means I have to chop wood.
You got to chop the wood.
No way he's making this look good.
You got to push the moose and the elk out of the way just in case.
If I grew up that way, I'd be used to it. It wouldn't bother me.
Well, but here comes the problem. When we don't get younger, the body doesn't care.
You have to have lots of kids.
Because that chopping wood stuff.
You have to have lots of kids.
They did.
And they have to stay home. They can't go off on their own.
Let me tell you what, they all run away from home in their teens
Eventually.
because they finally they find out what the real world is. But anyway, we didn't do it.
Well, we didn't chop wood. I collected pine cones.
Well, that works, and they're a lot lighter.
And they burnt
good. They burnt really well.
We had a little old Franklin potbelly stove in West Palm, and that's what we'd burn.
Gee, my second ex-wife, her mother was from the Upper Peninsula in Michigan.
An Ooper.
And they call them
Oopers.
Oopers. Mm-hmm. And they were from a little tiny town called Champion, which was 750 people, divided into three towns: Frenchtown, Swedetown, and Finntown. They sat on top of an iron mine. And they never had indoor plumbing, and they never had heat. They had a stove in the kitchen.
Okay.
A wood-burning stove and a hole in the ceiling.
My grandmother had that.
A hole in the ceiling, let the heat go upstairs. And when she was 2 years old, her parents died. And she was the youngest of 11. And the kids all moved down the street, and the kids raised the kids. And the neighbors helped out. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was called the original system of the village.
Well, in that situation, what else are you going to do?
Well, that's what they did, though. Yeah. And it was called normal. Nobody knew that it was.
You mean the government didn't come in and tell those kids where they needed to go live?
Can you believe that?
Or take them away?
Amazing.
Those Swedes and Finns and French, they probably didn't even know there was a government. Yeah. When you get up there.
They were
self-ingenuity, yes.
Self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, in that little town, they had a retirement home that was built by the people that lived there. And it was like a 10,000 square foot big structure that took the old people when they couldn't live at home, and then they took care of them there. It was just a magnificent little town, a throwback to something that nobody knows about today.
And it's probably not all that different now.
I doubt it is, because up there nothing really changes.
No.
It's
Well, there's nothing wrong with society taking care of itself. That's truly how I think it was meant to be. The government's designed to lend a helping hand in some cases, but what we've come to do is we've come to depend on the government to think for us. We've come to depend on the government to make moral decisions for us, and we just go and float down this lazy river of incompetence, let's say, and all
Some
of a
of us
sudden,
float kicking and screaming, though.
But you go. Unfortunately, you go.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's what happens when Lyndon Johnson tried the Great Society and found out how that failed. That created more welfare than ever because people.
The war on poverty.
Yeah. So when people don't have a reason to go to work, I mean, look at Dan. When we were kids, if we'd have had an allowance, we would never gone to work.
I don't know. I started pumping gas when I was 12 because I wanted a certain kind of shoes, and I think I've told you before. My dad was he loved me, and he said, well, let's go see if we can buy them. And he made $60 a week, and the shoes were $20. And he said, I love you, but I can't spend $20 on a pair of shoes, but I can get you a job, and I don't mind working.
After you worked for it, did you buy those shoes?
I bought them the first week. I made $5 a day.
Yeah. And then did you wear them, or did you keep them in the closet so you didn't ruin them? Okay, good.
Wore them out.
I didn't buy them not to wear them.
Well, I worked on a milk truck from the time I could walk because my dad was a milkman.
Yeah.
And that was called What You Did. And even though I didn't like 1 second of it, it was called That's What You Did. And that was it. And I used to pump gas, too. And when the milk.
What I hated about pumping gas was when they would change the location of where the gas cap was. All right.
Try to find it on a 56 Chevy.
I like those
behind the rear light.
Plate.
They're hiding it.
Behind the light. Yeah. Had to
Yep.
crack open the light. Yeah, I remember those things. I pumped gas for 16 cents a gallon. That was how much it was.
You beat me. 21 was my
That was
my
your
low.
price.
But we had gas wars, and I had to get out there and check your oil, check your tire pressure, clean your windshield for that price.
Yeah.
But that's when it was called a service station and not just a gas station.
Well, we were also a repair shop.
Oh, I was.
We didn't make our money on a convenience store. We made our money on the mechanic side of it. So, I learned a lot of stuff about cars and stuff as a kid from that. But, today, they don't let 12-year-olds pump gas.
No, they don't let 12-year-olds work.
At my house, they would.
Yeah, right. Well, you know what happens if you get certain ethnic groups, the kids do work.
Sure.
Now, forget the rules. If you go into the Chinese
Isn't
restaurant.
that what they're for?
Well, of course it is. I mean,
I think so.
But it was called, it's a family,
Yeah.
right? It's a family.
Well, they don't learn anything if you don't make them do anything.
Well,
You're right.
Was it Paul Harvey? Remember Paul Harvey years ago?
The rest of the story?
The rest of the story. And he said, you want to make a good investment? He says, real simple. Grab any immigrant and back them up in any business they want to start. And it was pretty much the truth when you looked at the people that came over from France and Germany and England.
You mean legally, right?
Well,
We would hope so.
all legal, yeah, because you didn't back up people that were illegal. And literally, these people worked 8 to faint, and they saved, and sometimes they lived in the store or above the store. Remember the old days when you always had the apartment above the stores in the little towns?
But you didn't have to be an immigrant to do that.
No.
You had an awful lot of native-borns who started that type of business with that type of mentality, and that's what made this country prosper.
Did they have those in West Palm?
Absolutely. I can remember doctors. I remember going to doctors that lived in the house where they practiced.
Yeah.
Joe, a minute ago, I heard you say the number 3. Do you want to add any numbers to that?
340-1590, 340-1590. So the original 3 started doing these shows back in 04, which is 2004. And as we said, I think last week or 2 weeks ago when Greg was here, do you think we ever had a clue we'd be doing these shows 14 years later?
Absolutely not.
Never entered our mind. But over a period of time, we also added Ms. Victoria Lloyd Remax of Stewart. With the Great Recession hit, real estate became a monster topic with new words like short sales and deed backs, foreclosures, etc. And then Mike Paulus, which hand in glove with Victoria, mortgage broker, because the words were out back then. There was no mortgage money available, and that was never true. They went back to the old rules. You had to actually prove that you could make the payment.
And that's not a bad rule.
It was
Joe.
never a bad
Because you know what happens if you have a large number of people who all of a sudden can't make the payment?
Yeah.
The taxpayers have been known in the past to pick up the tab.
Well, you know what happens? If property taxes aren't paid,
Yeah.
guess what happens?
Things come to
How
a
do we
stop.
fund schools? How do we fund roads? How do we fund our government? You know, and it's not just our government, our infrastructure.
Well, you know, nobody minds paying, in my opinion. What we mind is when we perceive waste.
Oh boy.
All right. So if I'm driving by a road project and I see
6 or 8
one
guys
guy
standing.
working and 7 guys in white shirts watching him,
Right.
I think there's a little waste. Now I'm sure that I'm exaggerating, but I can't help but see that all the time when I drive by.
Well, I think what they do, they take that white shirt and they put a little dirt on it just so you think they're working. 340-1590, 340-1590. So the concept of the group was very simple. Joe Martek's a financial advisor. My job is to make people money and to protect the money. We'll talk, I hope, a little bit before the show is over about protecting your money. One of the things that's happening right now, the market's going kabonklers because of absolutely no reason in the world, but it's perception in that politics is the overriding effect on what's going on with the market.
And there could be some profit taken too, Joe.
Well,
the market's been very lucrative this year.
Well, last year especially. This year, technically, we're almost flat still. However, the economy is in a magnificent position. Magnificent position. Unemployment's at an all-time low.
And isn't the economy sort of like the rudder for the market? It sort of steers it.
Well, you know, the basic rule is this. If companies make profits, their values at least stay the same. If they make more profit than they project, their values go up. Because the way the stock market works, if you own a company, Dan, if you and I own a business, and we're splitting the profits 50-50 because we own 50% of the stock each, and we're both taking a $10,000 a year salary, but all of a sudden we make an extra $20,000, we get to get a bonus.
I expect my 10.
Our value just went up.
Sure.
And it's just that simple. So companies make money, their stock values go up. Now, Alan's sitting here nodding kind of, but there are companies that may not make a profit, but their perceived value down the road is
one good example of that is Tesla.
monster example of that, which is monster in the news right now, and they can't figure out what he's doing. And yeah, but that's okay. You know, that gives them something to talk about. But other companies too, like Amazon or eBay. There's tons and tons of companies out there that spend a lot of money to lay the groundwork before they start making a big profit.
And people look at, let's say an Amazon investor early on has made a tremendous return.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that in the market there is another Amazon right now
at least
on the verge, working on some stuff. If you're fortunate and lucky enough to have made that purchase, you'll do well, but no one can tell.
No, you know, hindsight is always 20/20. I mean, look at Facebook and all of these social media things that us old guys would never have believed in a million years that was going to be, but all of a sudden.
It's like a yearbook on the internet. It's like, how's that ever going to make any money? But boy, I was wrong.
Boy, I tell you, that was pretty
I still don't get it.
Yeah.
But they make so much money advertising. If you get on, I'm not on any social media, but everybody else that is, there's always sidebands with ads like crazy.
So you don't have a social profile?
No.
So you have no social standing?
Well, you can look me up on Google if you just put in Joe Martek or HF Joe Martek.
Okay.
There's tons of stuff like our radio shows.
Yeah.
There's YouTube. There's all kinds of information.
Do you have a website?
No.
Okay.
Now, if I have a website,
You should have a website. Your website should at least have a really cool logo and
Picture of
direct
somebody else.
But what it does is
direct
Google,
you to the phone.
Google automatically put in a address and some information,
White
and
pages.
phone numbers.
That's
But
your
it's-
white
it's-
pages.
It's like a,
So
like a
is
3
this
by,
you can buy this if you would like.
yeah. It's like 3x3 or 3x4
Okay.
that comes up, and it shows. You know, it's stuff. The key is my broker dealer, and almost all of them don't like us being in social media.
Okay.
They don't like it at all because, let's just say a guy gets sued for something he did that had nothing to do with his broker dealer. But if the person that is suing him mentioned the fact that he knew that he had this broker dealer, it's guilt by association, and that broker dealer can be sued, and they've got the deep pockets. deep pockets. So the individual may not have the pockets, but when it's an attorney suing, they're looking for deep pockets. So my broker, in fact, my father-in-law, my daughter's father-in-law, put me on LinkedIn. I had to resign. I didn't even know I was on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So I had to resign from that. And then one of my exes put me on Facebook.
And you went, why?
And she just wanted to know what I was doing. But I've never gone
No
into
one would
it.
know unless you put stuff on.
I don't put anything.
Yeah.
But
if someone's posting for you,
But
it
somebody
looks
can
like
post
it's
for it.
you.
You can say whatever they, but it's just one of those aggravations in life. So the concept again of our business is either to make you money or save you money. And in speaking of which, we have number 4 team member on here, Ms. Victoria Lloyd. How you doing, babe?
How are you guys?
We're good.
Hey, I'm old. Dan's almost old.
I'm not that old.
Alan's real old, That's perfect.
So things are moving on. So I heard you talking about being on Facebook and LinkedIn. So
Yep.
I guess as broker dealers, I guess you guys are not you're not allowed to do that at all.
They do not want us on social media. Period.
Right. I think you even have to get letters or anything you do get approved, don't you? I mean, they're really strict about all that stuff.
If I tried to go on, I would have to get it approved every word that I do. And if I did a website, they don't want me even to do my own. They would like to go through themselves and have them do a website because they've got to be extremely careful. And then
you should have them do it for you, Joe.
Well, but
I would just have a really pretty picture and the phone number.
That's what I've got.
I'd have lots of money floating around.
I got a real pretty picture and a phone number.
Yeah, there you go.
Actually, it's not too pretty, but and then what happens, Vic, with you and Dan and all of us. There's a whole bunch of information on us on the internet. All they have to do is put in our name, and tons of stuff comes up. And then Cliff's constantly putting our shows on YouTube, so those are coming up all the time, right?
Yes,
right.
that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of crazy. I mean, you just have to be really, really careful nowadays, and what you post and what you do. And I'm the same way with you. I don't post anything on Facebook at all, and I know a lot of realtors do, but I don't think everybody wants their privacy out there.
Well, one of the things that happens, Vic, let's just say you're worth a couple of $100,000 and somebody wants to sue you for $10 million. Well, guess what? They're probably not just going to sue you. They're going to sue RE/MAX and your local broker, everybody and their brother looking for deep pockets. So the concept is if there's a potential to drag somebody else into that picture, and that's where the social media, where the broker dealers or somebody like RE/MAX or others, that they're a bit cautious or worried of the guilt by association.
Or like what we just heard in the news recently, was it like some politician said to their son on social media to buy some stocks or something, and now it's called insider trading.
Yeah, let me tell you what. That was kind of.
Yeah.
If you're on the board,
he was he was selling.
Okay.
He just said, okay, sell it now because tomorrow it's going to be worth 10% of what you paid for it.
Wow.
But today you make a profit.
Kind of a Martha Stewart thing?
Sort of, yeah.
Kind of a Martha.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, insider trading, when you have insider information that is not publicly disseminated, that is against the rules to use that to your benefit or anybody's benefit.
But, while we're talking about that, how do we have so many politicians who go into office relatively poor, don't make a really big salary,
No.
and then a decade or so later, depending on how long they can convince people to vote for them, they're worth millions and millions of dollars. How does that happen?
How does that happen, Dan?
I have some suspicions, but I can't.
We have an attorney who's going to give us.
I'll give you an example.
A lengthy opinion.
No, not a lengthy opinion. I'll give you an example. There was nothing prohibiting congressmen because they exempted themselves from insider trading until recently. So if a congressman or a senator was on a defense committee and found out that a defense contractor was going to get a mega contract, there was no restriction on that person going in and buying the stock, and then when the stock ballooned up on the news announcement, the legislature made big money.
Isn't well?
No,
yeah,
but that's over.
called
Is that over?
That's over now.
That's
Wow.
over now. But insider, listen, it's the whole concept is if it's a publicly traded company, the public has to know everything that's going on. If you are part of the insider and you take advantage of that situation, for you or any relative, friend, neighbor, who cares what, that's again the law, right?
Right.
Okay. Anyway,
Yeah,
Vic, so
interesting.
anyway, like you said, with Lenny or me or anybody, and we just have to be more than careful about.
Well, I think we all need to be careful. It was kind of funny because we were just talking about with another client of mine, I'm going to show some property, and then I was talking to somebody else, and they said, "Oh, did you know that they were going to cut that road through?" Well, there was no indication, and I hadn't heard anything about that. And I said to him, I said, I just heard on that particular street in Stewart that there might be a new development going behind that development, and there might be, the road might be. They might cut that road through to the new development.
Right.
So he said, well, thank you for telling me that. I would never. I said, well, I don't know. It's hearsay. I just heard it.
Well, you know what happens is if you're honest, quote, credible, have integrity, these kind of things you disclose to your potential things, whether it's true or not, because if you don't, there can be some legal ramifications down the road. And you and we've all seen people that are supposed to divulge information that have not.
Well, do you have to divulge the new train that may come through one day?
Well, we do in our seller's disclosure.
Okay.
When you go to purchase from us, we do have a whole thing that you pay property taxes. You could do the Megan laws. There could be a train. There's a nuclear plant.
All that stuff has to be right.
That's all put into a form that you sign when you purchase.
How about the
something.
algae? Do you have to disclose the algae?
Well, that might be another disclosure that might come up that's a possibility that happens. Now it's visible that it does happen, and when you're talking with people and that when it's not there, you could say we've had it when they've released,
Yeah.
the waters.
If it's waterfront property on the South Fork of the St. Lucie River, I think it's probably pretty important.
Made Fox News last night.
I did.
Well, that's,
Yeah, the big news, not the local news.
Well, I know it was a factor in Nancy and I selling our house on the river a couple of years ago because we'd seen it come and go too many times.
They had an expert on, too, that said, get over it. It happens periodically,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's been
gonna
happening for the past few years.
Yeah.
Listen,
But that doesn't make it right. It's like
No.
when your husband doesn't come home on time and you've told him he better do it all the time. It doesn't
And
mean it's okay.
he says, get
you
used
know?
to it. Get used to it.
Oh, that's right. You didn't marry an Italian. I keep forgetting.
No, I didn't.
Victoria's
My
Italian. I
wife
just
had
had
a
to bring that in.
I think you better come home on time.
Better come home on time. Yeah, well, hey, I think she's got a club and a shovel and all kinds of things at her disposal. Hey, Vic, everything else is good, though. The real estate market is good. Interest rates are still good. Everything's good.
Yeah, they are. Everything is still good. I mean, people are still on the sideline. It's kind of funny, whether they want to buy or when they're going to buy. But, you can't wait too long. I've had people that have been thinking for a year or two, and then they're saying, oh, prices are going up. Well, you can't just
No
keep
kidding, yeah.
thinking about it. You got to do something. But I must say we are getting a lot of people coming up from Miami and Fort Lauderdale, and they're getting getaway homes here because they kind of feel like
They got to get away.
they got to get away from.
No, they got to make us like them.
Well, the other side of the coin is, look, Florida's going to be the third most populated state in America if it isn't already. But why would people not want to live here?
Have you seen that improvement project, the I-4 improvement project?
No.
Oh, man. Huge. Just huge. To move tons and tons of people.
From?
I mean,
If you lived in Orlando as my
In
daughter,
through
and stuff,
Orlando.
there's road construction for years, and when one stops, another
Yeah.
yeah.
starts.
But
It
this
never stops.
this I-4 thing is just humongous.
Well, Megalopolis is all the way from Daytona to Tampa, or St. Pete, basically.
Okay.
It's almost
Yeah,
nonstop
yeah.
city today.
No, they call that the I-4 corridor.
Yeah,
Well, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
But, and hey, that area, every part of Florida is growing. Every part of Florida. That's just, and you can't.
Oh, it is. And I remember when it was just so small. And I'm driving down a road right now, which is called Leonard Road, and all it used to be is orange groves, and
Yeah,
all those
yeah.
orange groves are completely gone now.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
It just, and the reason it was called Leonard Road because he was the one that had all the orange groves. That was the
Yeah,
owner's
yeah,
name,
yeah,
Leonard. So it's amazing the history we have here, but it is all changing.
All right.
But, I'll be talking to everybody, and thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you later on.
All right, girl. Have a
Bye,
good one.
babe.
340-1590, 340-1590. Well, did we cover enough people here now?
Well, you just talked about transportation, so I'm going to take a second just to promo something. The director of the transportation planning organization for St. Lucie County is going to be a guest on Mr. G's show next Wednesday morning at about 8 in the morning.
And what's that? What are you going to talk about?
We're going to talk about all sorts of transportation as far as new projects, what's happening as far as bus service, as far as bike lanes. It's so if anybody's interested in that, next Wednesday morning, August 22nd.
And what time?
About 8 in the morning after the...
Was before the swap shop?
Yes.
Oh, so...
I want to know when Midway Road's going to get done.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to know why bikes don't stay in the bike lane.
Okay.
Well, listen, are you using logic again?
Well, instead of single file, you give them a lane. Now they got their own lane.
Are you looking
but they're
for
still
logic
in the street.
again?
Well, they ride 4 abreast.
Still in the street, and they don't move.
I know.
340-1590, 340-1590. Speaking of politics...
What do you want to know?
Well, I was just kind of laughing at myself at what's going on with the economy. The economy is just in a magnificent position. By most cases, we're the best in 50 years.
Oh, do you know about Home Depot?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Tell
us about Home Depot.
Well, they're making all kinds of money. They made tons of money. Everybody's
Well,
making...
their projections were much lower than what they actually earned.
Their stock is just hot. They're a hot company. But understand, they're not the only hot company. Our GDP, gross domestic product, is hovering highly over 3%, which the prior administration said the new economy is 1.5, 1.8. We'll never hit 2.
Well, Obama wanted to know what magic wand he had that he was going to do this with. So I don't know, but he did it.
So now we're at a constant easy 3. And you know what's nobody's excited about that in the media anymore. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's like when gas went over $2 a gallon. I was outraged. Now, if it was $2 a gallon, I'd be thrilled.
Yeah.
So it's all what you're accustomed to.
So
no, they won't. They just won't toot that horn either.
The key
the
thing
media's
is
not going there.
It's just one piece of negative after another. And my girl Deborah was reading or listening, and I said, Deb, first of all, look at who wrote that article.
Yeah, what's the agenda?
Just find out what their agenda is. And there was one that took the whole front page of the Stewart News, and it was somewhere in there was the Democratic Committee. It was just kind of an interesting little tidbit and they got front page. And I'm thinking, Lord save me. All of anything negative that can happen about our president right now is the media's agenda to publicize it.
Do you remember about 2 weeks ago, we were talking at the other station in Palm City about what we strive to get, which is an educated consumer.
Oh, big time.
And that's really what we want, is an educated voter. All right? If you have an agenda, educate yourself about what you believe in and see who's really doing that. Don't just take the talking points as gospel,
or at least
many times
get some free stuff.
Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
I love all of the negative ads, and just think the negative ads are going to get even more after the primary's over.
But
I know who their opponent is.
That's it.
There was one very interesting election in my home state. Scott Walker, the governor of Wisconsin, is running for re-election.
Right.
And
he won the primary.
And he won his primary. But remember, what propelled Scott Walker to notoriety was when he took on the teachers union and beat the teachers union in Wisconsin. Well, on the Democratic side yesterday in Wisconsin, the winner of that primary was the former superintendent of schools.
Of course.
So that is going to be a very interesting race to watch.
Well, didn't he have to prove that he won? He had to do like a recount
it was
or a re-election or.
Do you remember they were sitting in the Capitol building there with their protests and they were busing protesters in from other states and stuff. It was a big to-do union-wise.
Okay.
I'm trying to make it entertainment.
Well, listen, if I'm a member of a union and I want to pay my dues because I believe in that union, that's one thing. But if I work for a certain company that says, even if you're not part of the union, you have to pay, that's not right.
Yeah,
and that was the big stink over there, because it thought the union will lose some of its clout if it can't extract money from me if I'm not a member.
Well, also guys don't get a paycheck.
Yeah.
Little minor thing. Ask Jimmy Hoffa how important that was.
If she knew where he was, we could talk to him.
340-1590.
He might be listening. Well, maybe he might be a little old.
Hey, and one of our favorite callers is on the line. Mike, it's Joe Martek. You're on the radio, my man.
That's very nice to hear. Thanks. I'm going to throw down with some real this morning. First, with NFL looming, I want to say criminality is not a result of racial injustice. So I would like them to clear that up quick. There's a lot of murder and mayhem going on. In the weeks after the conviction of Danny Rolling for the Gainesville murders,
right,
I heard the mother of Sonia Larson, one of the victims, Ada Larson, say on TV, "I don't want to get old knowing this man is enjoying remembering what he did to my daughter." And they stretched him out pretty quickly. It's now been 50 years since some guys murdered the Slater girl, a cashier in Jensen Beach,
Yes.
in the night, and they're still going. 35 years ago, Billy Kearse gunned down our officer Parrish outside the arcade building. I was in there fixing stereos and heard the shots.
Wow.
Kearse is still going. I have a solution. I even have a name for it. PERC, P-E-R-C, Penal Enforcement Review Council, a group whose sole job will be to run down and go over the cases and make sure these people who are completely, convincingly sentenced for what they did don't live a day past 2 years after their death sentence is handed down. I think it would free up the prisons. I don't buy this notion that it costs more to execute someone than to keep them behind bars for decades. I don't know where that comes from.
It actually, the key thing is all of the attorneys that get involved and they're trying to constant appeals.
Right.
And that's governments are paying for these things. So here comes the cost to keep them. But like you said, if a person is convicted and sentenced to death, they could be on death row for 20 years, 30 years.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. However, the other side of the coin is the Innocence Project. There have many attorneys who have taken cases and found that a person on death row was wrongly convicted.
Sure.
So there is an interest in not killing somebody too quickly. Let's put it that way.
The other side of the coin is, and Mike, this is Joe Martek's opinion.
Yes.
There should be no death penalty. Let them sit in jail for the rest of their life, and it's going to cost a lot, but it's not going to cost as much as all these damn appeals that constantly go on and all the attorneys that get paid. But the key is this: if an attorney is trying to get this guy off and he's wrongly convicted, okay, so be it. X number, that's going to happen.
Or a third way is Wisconsin justice. Look what they did to Jeffrey Dahmer. They didn't want him around, so they just took care of him inside the prison.
Well, vigilante justice has worked forever. You know, if you go to the Bahamas, Mike, which I do regularly on the boat, you go to these little islands with 250 or 300 or 400 people. Now, I don't care if these people were pink, green, orange, black, or whatever color they are. There is no crime. There is no crime. And if somebody ever does commit a crime against somebody that's bringing money over there, which is tourist, they happen to be missing. Just a minor little tiny thing.
Yeah, it's called cowboy justice.
Well, and you know, look, we were raised, most of us, the justice started at home with the old man saying, I'm going to beat the hell out of you if you do anything wrong. So we had fear in us for fear of doing anything wrong.
Exactly.
You know, and we just don't see much of that today.
But the political correct world thinks that you're a horrible, horrible human being if you beat your child.
Well,
and I don't mean beat him, I just mean spank him.
Yeah.
But you said beat, and that's
Yes.
the problem.
But
see?
but I still love my child, and I'm not going to kill them. No. I'm not going to maim them. I'm not going to break bones, but their butt's going to hurt.
Yeah,
Now, here's the thing. I rarely spanked my children. I mean, they knew I would, because I did. But my children, and this is just my opinion, would be glad to take the beating
instead of that long lecture.
Instead of the lecture and me saying, you know, I'm just so disappointed in the way you behaved. Yeah. My kids would start to cry. Yeah. All right. So
I think that the threat should work first.
The future of America, because you either want law and order or you don't.
Yep.
And if you don't, then you have a big problem, and it's going to only lead to a bad outcome. There's so much murder and mayhem, and it's just getting worse. And there needs to be a deterrent. That's what I'm into.
Well,
making people realize they are going to pay a price.
Mike, I believe that's locally or should be locally controlled. And here's why I say that.
Yes.
If I didn't really care much about law and order, I should live in Chicago.
Exactly.
If I wanted to sit around and get high and smoke pot, I should live out west
San Francisco.
somewhere. All right. So the beauty of this country is we have states and counties and cities that have different attitudes about how they expect the population to live.
But today, Dan, they do have laws for things that they're choosing not to enforce.
There you go.
In San Francisco. Now, how do they get away with that?
There was a pain clinic that was starting next to one of my offices years ago, and I did not want that to take hold where I was working.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I called the police. Every day I was giving them tag numbers, and eventually they went away. And I had people tell me, "Aren't you afraid they're going to come get you for doing that?" I go, "No, I live here. I work here. I don't want that here. It has to go somewhere else or stop."
That's true. I used to enjoy hearing our president at his rallies for the unruly protester. He'd simply say, "Get him out of here." I loved hearing that.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about all these people, that if you've taken someone's life, it's only logical to me that yours be cut short in turn. That's just fair to me.
Mike, I'm telling you what, you're speaking to the choir. The situation we're looking at is our boy is running the country, and unfortunately, paste Bulldog into this.
Together? Okay.
Yeah, paste Mike. We got Bulldog on the phone, and you know who you listen to Bulldog. Bulldog, you on the radio?
Yeah, how are you doing?
Hey,
guys?
good. We got Mike with us on the radio too, and Mike calls in regularly like you do, and Mike's a little bit conservative, and Bulldog, you're kind of a liberal.
Be careful, Joe.
Could you tell us
Hey, Joe, I wanted to ask
your
you
name,
something.
Bulldog? I'm
You
awfully
can't even
curious.
get on LinkedIn?
No, I can't get on LinkedIn.
Oh, they made you delete your Match.com account, too, huh?
He can't even spell it.
Match.com I can get on. That's no problem.
Or eHarmony.
eHarmony. Do I look like an eHarmony to you?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
Just saying. I don't know where you find them, Joe.
What's the
but
one for seniors? Because there's one for seniors,
It's
too.
about time, or it's about us, or we're almost out of time, or something like that.
I'm in the one that's I have 5 minutes left to live. What do you want to do tonight? And we have to go to bed by 8.
Yeah, because I die at 8:05.
I die at 8:05, right? Yeah, forget. I'm not putting out. Forget it.
Now be careful, language-wise here.
Well,
this is heard by children too.
I don't think so. They're in school.
Yeah.
They better be,
I'm so
right?
sorry for you, Joe, but that's okay.
Mike,
I understand.
Mike, Bulldog is not feeling too sorry for me. I hope you can give me some sympathy.
I wondered how his name came about. Is there any way he could give us a clue? I'm always curious about names.
Hey, Bulldog, explain that.
Well, I couldn't hear his question. I'm sorry.
How did Bulldog come apart?
The name.
It was given to me by a biker gang, and I'll just leave it there.
Biker gang.
I knew it was biker related.
Mike,
I knew it.
so you know that Bulldog is
Black Distance.
retired military, and
Nothing wrong with that, or the name Bulldog.
no. So
I
just
like that.
just so you know. So when you're named Elmer, you he's not really, but it's close enough.
Man,
No, it
Trump
is
is
not.
very smart. I like
No,
the
it's
notion.
not.
At
of a
least
space
it's
force.
not Harold.
Thank you so much, Bulldog, for remembering.
Yes, Francis.
There you go. See, some guys, because it's on those statements that what his girlfriend gets every month or two. So he knows that. Remember my name.
We know
that
your
way.
name.
That's it.
I've got a question for our callers, Mike and Bulldog. Have either one of you heard since the last show any positive news from the media on our president?
Not a bit. And I'm marveling each night in these clear skies looking at Mars and thinking, here's a machine we put on Mars that has now detected water a mile under that surface. If that isn't a miraculous achievement in my lifetime, I don't know what is. And that was given one article one time in a Tribune, and I haven't heard it mentioned again.
Well,
What a tremendous accomplishment to be proud of.
Well, positive news is against the media's rule. You know that.
Exactly.
The only media person I know that wants to talk about the reality is the one that's sitting here producing our program.
I'm not in the media, though.
She's not in. Oh yeah,
I'm
right.
not.
No, but the key.
To answer Alan's question, if I may, I scour them, on a daily basis. I don't see one pub that I read that has any positive. It's all about the negs.
Everything.
And you know, I remember Obama being president, and everything was like really upbeat. You know, or so it seems. So, is the media biased?
Well, that was pretty
maybe
easy.
a little bit.
How often did we have to hear how beautiful Michelle Obama's dress was?
Yeah.
I mean, to that extent.
We don't hear much about Melania, do we?
Excuse me, though? I mean, come on.
Well, not only the president vanquishing Obama's legacy in every way that he could, they were afraid if Miss Clinton lost that the truth of the criminality on all sides, on that left side, would be exposed. And that's part of why they just squirm and will never quit detesting this man that we so foolishly elected by some mistake. That's their notion.
Hey, and I'll tell you what, I just can't wait for midterm elections this coming November. In truth, this is the referendum, and you know, and it was James Cargill, I call him Carville, that was Carville, that was Clinton's thing. And they were asking him why Clinton, and he says, hey, it's the economy, stupid. And that was just one line, and the bottom line is people vote their pocketbook, and America is thriving. Everything in the world that can be positive is happening right now, and only getting better. So, hey, I'm excited about the future, but I'm looking to, other than us and Rush and a few other people on the tube or on the radio, there's not a whole bunch in the media that's beating a drum for our guy.
Well, let me ask you a question then, because I just heard Turkey increased tariffs, I believe yesterday.
Yeah.
So we're getting these increased tariffs, and we're playing the tariff game. How does this play out? I mean, are we winning or losing on this? And I'm looking, you know, the futures open like about 40 points down, which is no big deal, but I'm just looking at how this plays.
Well, the key with these tariffs, and so far, this has been so insignificant in the scope of things, but the media wants to make it a monster deal. But when it comes to real pocketbooks, nobody has been affected yet, period. Nothing.
But that's going to happen, Joe. I mean, there are going to be tariff retaliation. One specific thing that I thought was very interesting, the Chinese government has taken the time to figure out which districts were very pro-Trump. They're looking to see what products that particular district manufactures or makes, and that's where they're going to throw their tariffs. So they're trying to punish that Trump voter or that Trump district. I've never heard of a country throwing a tariff for that reason. Tariffs are usually done because my farmers make this certain product, and I don't want you to flood the market with your product, so here's the tariff to keep your product out. It's not usually to punish the voters.
What's happening is...
Right, now, I want to ask Dan about that. When you say district, what are you specifically
talking
about?
Let's suppose I was a Chinese official who was in charge of trying to figure out how to do the most damage with our tariffs to hurt Trump. I would say, okay, which products are made in the state of Florida? Oh, they do a lot of oranges. Did they vote heavily for Trump in that orange-producing district? Boom, we're going to tariff oranges.
Yeah, they did that with like pistachios and almonds.
Absolutely.
And those farmers.
Wow, okay, so they're doing selected tariffs.
Absolutely.
Soybeans.
In areas that supported Trump.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I'm sorry, pistachios. They said 30% of that goes overseas. Can't we just lower the price of pistachios in the U.S. and eat them here?
They're like $7 a pound at Publix.
Well, more of us would buy them if they lowered the price, and they could save that tariff money then.
The key thing that our boy is trying to do is level the playing field, because forever, up
sure.
until...
When he talks about the tariffs at these rallies,
Right.
people go crazy. They're supporting him.
Yeah.
So,
hey, look, a level playing field is something we've never had. You know, we have been big brother to the whole world, and now there are many very successful economies that are not contributing. And number two, if we are contributing, and this is a monster one, and Mike Bulldog, I know you'll jump on this one, that we are supporting countries that hate us, that literally want to kill us. that think we're the infidel and do anything in their power to get rid of us, and yet we give them money.
Well, how about giving money to Germany or the UN to protect Germany from Russia, and then they're doing business with Russia?
I know. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that bothers me a lot is when American citizens go and buy pharmaceuticals, the price is so much higher here than in other countries. And the reason I'm told is we're picking up the research and development costs
we are.
on these pharmaceuticals, but the rest of the world doesn't pay the same price we do. That's wrong. Everyone should share in the misery, and they should all pay the same, or we should pay less.
There you go. The key thing the guy is doing, and it's gonna work. I mean, I tell you right now, I would sit here and bet you $10 to a donut that the tariff situation is a strategy to get this level playing field taken care of. And the North American Free Trade Organization, all of these things are going to come into play by the time November rolls around. Wait, watch and see.
Yeah, because we're already out of NAFTA, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, I'm going to get off here, but I want to ask you one thing. I'm the new commissioner of the Lenny's Pick'em League. You guys play football?
Lenny's Pick'em League.
Let me just tell you what, after we had our guys sitting down, kneeling, and throwing their fist in the air at the Dolphins preseason game, I don't think I'm watching football.
What's football?
What's football?
Okay.
College football.
That kind of
Okay.
figured you guys.
College football.
College football, here we
Okay.
go. I'm learning a whole bunch more about college ball.
Yeah, that's
All
the
right.
best.
You got it.
Mike, you agree with that one, don't you?
Absolutely.
All right. So, yeah, but, I figured maybe you'd give a gift, maybe a free consultation. A coupon.
Listen,
hey, Dan, a free insurance.
A quote, a free
review.
quote.
Hey,
a
listen,
free quote.
I'm willing to give you a quote anytime you want one, Bulldog.
Wow, no, you just got to put it in a coupon.
If you want them to stand, just give them their Miranda. They're used to that. They'll stand.
It's a prize for the league, right?
Right, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Bulldog, thank you, my man. Give Mary Beth my sympathy.
I'm just so glad that the
And
conservative
anyone
way
you're with,
took over,
Anyone you're with.
and America's better off
Thank
for
you.
it.
Thank
Love
you.
To make all the progress
Bye.
we can
Bye.
while the conservative voice is strong.
Yep.
Well, that's one thing, on the Democratic side, I will give them lots of kudos. When they're in a position to make changes, they make them. When the conservatives are in a position to make changes, they don't want to offend anybody, so they make them slow or not at all.
Yeah, it's this guy is making the waves, though, and he's going to make things happen.
Well,
and
how
he is
about-
making the things happen, and that's what we want.
The Democrats today, are they socialists or are they not socialists? I mean,
boy.
they're kind of fighting with each other right now.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let them fight with each other. We like that. Why should the Republicans be the only ones to fight with each other?
Yeah.
Well, that's the way I see it. There's a lot to be happy about these days.
Absolutely.
That's it,
The
Mike.
positives all around.
Hey, my man, I'm glad you called in.
But we can't rest on our laurels. This is not a done deal.
No. Hey, listen, I think the guy running the show right now is a brilliant guy, playing the game under his rules. He doesn't care what anybody thinks, and then the majority of our country silently is behind him. But hey, just wait every time he has a quote rally, let's just call it, how many people show up? Just thousands,
Tens
and
of thousands. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just the beginning. Just the beginning.
The one you don't want against you is General Kelly.
Yep.
Apparently that guy's pretty quick to cut them when they have to go.
Yeah, well, he might be a racist. You never know. I mean, haven't we already had that part jumping out? They're only calling Trump a racist now. Isn't that weird?
Well,
how he hired
everyone who supports him is too, just by association.
Just by association.
Yeah.
So he hires this girl, and he had her on his TV program.
Yeah, she
Then
was
he
on The
brings her in.
Apprentice.
Well, that's because there's a whole racist industry.
What
Yeah.
in the world happened there?
Yeah.
I mean,
There's a racist
Hello?
industry.
Yeah.
They make their living off stirring the racist pot.
And that's
That's
a
a
fact.
and isn't she just in trouble for the recording of the phone call? I mean, the FCC, it was an awful clean recording, too. Like, it was put through, like, a machine that records the phone.
All it amounts to is that, yes, she's got problems. She's going to sell a few books,
Yeah, there you go.
and that'll give her some money.
But how come we're
Yeah.
all forgetting about the fact that she got fired also out of the Clinton administration? Don't think she just started
Oh,
with...
no, this one, Amoroso?
Yeah.
No, she wasn't with the Clinton
Oh, I thought she was with the
she's
Clinton
non-politic. Non-politics.
Non-politics?
There
Yes.
was another
Yeah.
girl.
I don't know really
Yeah.
what she does.
Yeah. We don't know what she did in the White House either. But hey, you know,
No.
I think.
But she was given a chance. She was brought in. She's not a politician. He trusted her to do whatever it was she was supposed to do. And look what she did.
Mike, listen, my man, thank you so much for listening and calling in and yell at us every week.
Okay, well, enjoyed the show.
Bye, Mike.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
340-1590, 340-1590.
Oh, and Peter Strzok got fired, too.
Does he get his pension?
I'm just saying. I hope not.
I mean, does he get? Do you get your pension if you get fired?
Everything he did wrong.
Think if they get fired, I don't think they get a pension.
Yeah.
Because remember they lopped off the guy 2 days before he was due to retire.
Was that McCabe? So far,
McCabe.
Comey's been fired. McCabe's been fired.
Right.
Strzok has been fired, and the girl resigned.
Well, you know.
But I know that in some unions, it's if you're past a certain period of time,
there must not be a union in the FBI.
I bet you they're part of some union.
Hey, you get it anyway.
You get it anyway. I mean, I'd love to know. I'd just love to know.
I mean, black and white in his text. There it all is.
Yeah.
You know.
340-1590, 340-1590. Other than that, how's the insurance business, Dan?
It's it's been really good. I mean, we've been super busy, and every once in a while I'll say, hey, we're going to be looking for more people. We're not quite there yet, but I can see that in the not too distant future because I like to train before it gets too hectic. We've picked up some new carriers. Every once in a while we'll make it we feel comfortable with them. They feel comfortable with us. So
things are good.
Things are good. We have some really good homeowner markets. And I mean, the auto insurance industry is extremely competitive everywhere. So there's no really big savings. There are savings to be had, but the homeowners market is got some real fluctuation in it. There are some companies that are extremely high, and some that are much more competitive. And we have also picked up a very, very competitive manufactured housing market, which we didn't have before. So that's always good. And so life is good, Joe.
Speaking of insured investments, and this becomes a big subject. Because
you need to speak really quick because you only got a minute.
Well, I know that.
Okay.
He can do that.
I can do that. I can be anyway. Insured investments. When I get people right now that are nervous, watching the market go crazy and that it hasn't really done, well, all of a sudden, when you have an investment that says, "Hey, we're going to make sure that your family's protected in case you die when the market's down," they're going to protect your principal. Some of them say we're going to guarantee a 5% per year or highest quarterly. Some of them come up and say, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to lock your numbers in once a year and let those things guarantee you an income for the rest of your life. All kinds of good things can happen. Last year we had people that were invested in the S&P 500 in this insured investment that were up 18-19%. That's not a bad thing, and to have that number locked in is a wonderful thing. People that need information on that kind of stuff today, call the radio station, 340-1590. They'll take your name and number, have you call us, 340-1590. And I'm supposed to say you need to know which insurance company you're dealing with and their claims paying ability because my compliance people make me say that. Are we done? We're done. And until next week.
Goodbye, Joe.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Team Martek Hour. The Team Martek Hour is a paid program. The content was provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership were not responsible for its content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Tune in again next Wednesday at 11:05 for the Team Martek Hour here on WPSL 1590.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.